Greetings, brothers and sisters. I already did this video once, and somehow my screen capture recorded the audio, but not the video, which happens every once in a while, which sucks. Thank God I only got through the Madonna part, but I'm having to do this all over again. I got some funny stuff to get to with Madam Expiration Date. There's stuff to do with Jon Stewart and the media and some other things I don't remember about. But it's a video packed full of wonder. But I want to start here because this is really important, probably the most important part to me. Yesterday I made a video in which someone left a comment saying they agreed with my assessment of all the things that are going on in the world, but said I was being negative and that the system wasn't going to collapse and that we were eventually going to go back to a gold standard. And what I did was I divided 2.5 billion ounces of gold, and that's how many ounces of gold they say there is in the world, by $2 quadrillion of wealth and debt that's out there. What, we think of in terms of everybody's claim to something, like in dollars, is 2 quadrillions. $2 quadrillion of wealth out there. And, that produced some results that were harder to understand than this one. What I realized after making the video, I should have divided 2 quadrillion by 2.5 billion. And when I did that, $2 quadrillion divided by 2 billion ounces equals $800,000 an ounce. So each one of these ounces of gold under the current amount of wealth out there was considered wealth, would mean that gold would be $800,000 an ounce. Gold right now is at close to $2,000 an ounce. And it used to be $1 an ounce. The dollar used to be, when there used to be gold coins, it was like, I think it started off with $1 an ounce, like $1 was worth an ounce of gold. And then I think it went up to 20, I'm not sure, but it was significantly lower than it is now, right? And so this is all inflation. Because we're still in one way or another on a gold standard, even though we have a petrodollar. Gold is a good indicator of inflation, right? And this is being held down because in reality, gold is worth a lot more than $2,000. But they're holding it down purposefully so people don't realize how much inflation there is. But if it was $800,000 of an ounce, right, that would mean that, to buy a loaf of bread would cost $1 million, right? Something crazy like that. And it also is an indicator of the true nature of our economy. But the guy also said that they have more gold now, right? They have more gold now. And so let's say it was not 2.5 billion, but 50 billion. There's not 50 billion of ounces of gold. It would still be $40,000 an ounce. And so where this quadrillion figure comes from, 2 quadrillion figure comes from, we're now at over $30 trillion of national debt, and they haven't factored in the $8 trillion of bailout of printing money. Like that hasn't been factored out in here. Here's the amount of income we get. This is tax revenue, and this is the collective debt. Total U.S. debt is almost $90 trillion. But here's the big number: currency and credit derivatives now. And the derivatives market in America is at $600 trillion. And so this is all money owed, the derivatives market. And then down here, there is the unfunded liabilities, right? These are all things like Social Security and Medicare. They're promises that aren't covered under the budget. And so with all this collective debt, America itself is at $1 quadrillion worth of debt. And when you understand debt, like you think, well, debt's debt and wealth is something else, the amount of money that's owed is owed to somebody. So if you owe a bank $1 million, the bank claims that $1 million as an asset, right? Plus the interest. So let's say it's, $100,000 that you're going to pay back. So they're claiming your debt, your liabilities as an asset. So everything that's owed out there is owed to somebody, and they think that they have wealth, right? They think that they have value. And that's saying nothing about land and property and all the things that people own. All the people think that is their wealth. And there isn't enough gold out there to, to cover all the debt and all the promises to pay and all the fiat currency and all the things that are out there. And so this is why they're talking about a great reset, because they have to get rid of quadrillions of dollars worth of promises to pay and things that you're promised. Like, you're promised, you think you're promised Social Security, but that costs $21 trillion. You're promised Medicare when you get older, but that's $33 trillion in promised money, and you're not promised that because they can't deliver that, right? Like, you think you're promised that. So everyone's going to, the amount of wealth is going to shrink, and that's going to shrink the economy, and that means the population has to shrink as well, right? So this is why everything that's happening right now is happening, and there's no going back to the gold standard, and there's no saving the system, right? And this idea here of, $800,000 per ounce, that's crazy, right? $800,000 per ounce of gold, that's what gold is worth right now. With all the amount of debt out there, that gold should really be at $800,000 an ounce, because if all the currency, of all the debt, of all the projected wealth of $2 quadrillion was was backed by gold, then gold would be $800,000 an ounce. So that should be a wake-up call to everybody on how screwed over we are. Speaking of screwed over, let's go to Madam Expiration Date. One of my viewers sent me this yesterday.
Hi, this is Madonna.
She's got an excellent sense of humor.
This is Madonna, the mother of Jesus.
She's the mother of Jesus. She's gone from the ghoulish black and white to the ghoulish color, right? We know what she looks like in real life, and there are filters that try to make her look like she's in her 20s when she's in her 60s, which is nothing wrong with that. I mean, everyone gets old. It's just, not accepting it makes it uncomfortable for the rest of us.
Hi, this is Madonna. Hi, this is...
Take one more sip, yeah.
I love that your nails... Is that big enough?
Yeah.
She's turned into some sort of barfly.
Hi, I'm drunk.
Hey.
Okay. Ready for the cocaine to kick in. Okay. Fighters. We're all fighters. Don't
She's not funny and really annoying.
anybody touch me. I'm going to call the police. Make sure you check out my new Frozen remix of Sickick.
Okay, one more time.
That was so good.
Yeah, that was really good.
Feeling so strong.
That's it.
Done. Hi, this is...
Wow, it's just so uncomfortable. It's just so self-conscious and weird. I mean, she's just not in the flow. Not a good singer. Really just, no natural sort of ability to self-perceive, and just all this creepy stuff that she does, right? And the desperation to stay relevant. And then I had this up on my toolbar for a while. Here's a video from Madonna and a rapper named Fireboy DML. It's called Frozen the Remix, 'cause that's what she was just pitching in that promo. And it starts off here with, there's just all this flashing lights, and the music sucks, which of course it does. So it starts off with her Illuminati eye. See, the road is coming in behind her, right? There's always this Eye of Horus, the Illuminati eye, and it goes to a dog here, which I would assume is Anubis, because of course it would be, right? And just a lot of flashing, sort of mystical, this is just Madonna's subliminal messaging, and it's just creepiness, so ghoulish, and just, off the charts of the crows there, which symbolize death. There's a lot of flashing red. Red is a color that they use as it means all kinds of, initiation and Satanism and, lust and greed. I mean, power and all these things, right? Not that red is a bad color, but it's what it represents in music videos specifically. And also, represents death and initiation and sacrificial rituals. Just really creepy, just everything that we've come to know and, dislike about Madonna. This guy shows up, and there are some flames here, and then he bows down to her. Here he bows down to her.
Go on my knees and I pray to the Lord.
He's on his knees, like bowing to Madonna, and then he says, "Get on my knees and pray to the Lord." And Madonna is like shunning him here, right? Like she's this. I mean, she wants to be seen as some sort of a goddess, and certainly royalty, and that she's some pop music icon. And she has this guy down on his knees, and he's begging her, and she's like, get away, right? You're beneath me, right? Like the same way that Chris Cuomo's wife did when he emerged from the basement. It's just cringeworthy. Is that a piece of pizza ring she has there? Maybe from that angle, but she's biting her finger and she's got her stupid grill. Right? And at the end of it, he's inverted here. And then he's inverted on the right. Of course, Satanism, they invert everything. They flip things upside down. Then he was inverted on the left before. Now he's inverted on the right. Madonna's upright, but he's inverted. And this is how the video ends. There's flashes of him being on his knees. And then it ends with him bowing down in front of her, right? Madam Expiration Date, who thinks she's some sort of a goddess and she wants people to bow down to her. Okay, so I'm going to move to this portion of... there was a video that YouTube recommended on my phone feed, and it was to Jon Stewart's new show. And it was about the media's Ukraine coverage is shifting to speculation mode. And so this is where the shills that are part of the system, part of the beast, start bailing on each other, right? Start attacking each other. I mean, Jon Stewart is somebody who's a little bit more open to attacking the media in general. And, of course, he's always going to be more about, Fox News sucking than CNN or these other, various outlets. But it represents something. Well, let's just get into it here. So this woman used to be a producer for CBS News, and this guy is involved with the mainstream media, and they both have lots of critical things and, things that, certainly not truther stuff, but supportive, in a much more shallow way of truther narratives. I'm not going to cover that, but just that's some of what happened here. And it starts off here.
And this episode was, it was personal, man. It was personal.
It was.
So she was, as they were working on this episode, she said, of being critical of the media, that was personal.
It began with, John, you're being very hard on the media. And it ended with, let's get these motherfuckers.
So she said that he's saying that she said in the beginning that you're being very hard on the media. But by the end of it, she was like, let's get these MNFers, right? Because, when you start really concentrating on the media, they're very unlikable and they suck so bad. If you put any kind of thought into it, even if you worked with them, even if you're some sort of liberal shill, doesn't matter. Like when you work with a sucky organization or a sucky person, eventually you're going to figure out they suck, right? It's just inevitable. So then Jon Stewart's talking about the media pushing the administration into bombing the Russians.
They had a drone. Okay. Let's look at it this way. What would it take for you to bomb them? How about bombing them? We have a question for you. Bombs. What about those?
So then there was this. This is the main reason I'm including this in this video. Because, the media sucking, of course, is stuff that happened with Joe Rogan. Like Joe Rogan is, a little bit closer to being a truther, Tucker Carlson, than Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart a little bit closer than the people that on CNN, right? Using critical thinking skills and looking a little bit outside of the bandwidth. And this is what he had to say here.
They're trapped in a business model that creates news as narratives. It's one thing to tell stories, it's another thing to direct them.
So this is one of the problems with the media. It's what I talk about all the time. They come with a preconceived idea, right? If Hunter Biden does something, it's okay for the, MSNBC and CNN. Fox will jump on it and cry foul. CNN and MSNBC won't cover it. But if Donald Trump Jr. does something, then Fox will maybe let it go, and a little bit less likely because of them kind of going after the Trumps. But if a Republican does something, Fox will let it go, right-wing person, and CNN and MSNBC will jump on it. And I talk about this all the time. You have to criticize behaviors across the board, right? If somebody's doing a behavior, it's wrong in all cases, or it's not, then don't criticize it at all. But don't criticize it only when the people that you're against, the subjectivity of especially the news media and Hollywood and then politics and all of it. And, they're all owned and by the same people, and they all do the same shit, right? And they're all a part of it. And so, even to the extent of Jon Stewart on his show and shilling for these narratives. And again, they're trying to construct reality instead of reporting reality as it is across the board and on a systemic problem, because it's really the system, and none of these guys get to that, right? They never get to the system. They always get to it's these guys, like it's Jon Stewart, it's the media. It's a system that needs to be fueled by lies and hostility and all these other things. Watching season 2 of Build Back Better, let's bring back the dumpster fire. The dumpster fire.
Some people see a dumpster fire and do nothing but watch the spectacle. Some are too scared to face the danger, or they think it will benefit them if they just let it keep on burning.
Just in case you don't know, this is Richard Painter. He was a part of the Bush administration, and then he came out as a hater of Trump. And so he started to appear on CNN and MSNBC as a regular guest, and he talks just like this all the time. Some people are just too afraid to face the danger, and to face the danger. And so he decided, because he's from Minnesota, to run for an open congressional seat. And his campaign centered around the idea of his having the superpower of being able to put out dumpster fires, literally.
Others shrug and say, oh, all this talk about dumpster fire, it's just fake news.
All this talk about dumpster fire is just fake news. Just fake news. We need more of Richard Painter. Where'd he go? Where did Richard Painter go?
There is an inferno raging in Washington. But here in the land of 10,000 lakes, we know how to put out a fire.
Wait, did you just use water to put out a fire? What a revolutionary idea. Use water. In 10,000 lakes in Minnesota, they don't mess around with fires and dumpster fires. They know if you dump enough water on the fire, you can put it out. That's the kind of hometown wisdom Richard Painter's going to bring to Washington, D.C., where he's going to put out a fire. He's going to put out a fire. He's going to put out a dumpster fire with water. Fire and water.
I am Richard Painter, and I approve of this message.
Then he goes for the unfortunate close-up at the end. And remember, most of his friends call him Dick, Dick Painter. I did get all the old I didn't remake all the old jokes. This was a serious guy. This was a serious politician in Washington, D.C., in his state of Minnesota. This was a guy the media took as an expert in certain circumstances and a pundit, and he came on. You can, I don't know, my old videos those are all privatized, but he's out there on MSNBC and CNN. You can search his name, and he barks like that. That's how he talks. That's how his face looks. That's how he acts. And, I was like, who is this guy? Like he's so weird. He's so strange. There's a lot of weird and strange people that are on television. And they're even weirder when they're not in front of a camera. It's a weird place. It's an unnatural place. Starting the video with the idea that in reality, if we took into account the total amount of collective wealth out there, and the total amount of gold, that gold would be worth $800,000 an ounce. That's the kind of inflation that we have, right? That's how our wealth has been diluted, right? Like you see Bitcoin, for example. When Bitcoin first came out, when I first heard of it, and, I certainly wasn't an economic, and still am not an economic or financial genius, but I could have bought Bitcoin for like 10 cents a coin or something like that. Whatever, Like I heard about it early on because they were talking about it in the truth community. I didn't look into it. And then, could have easily bought it for like $1 or whatever. I mean, when I knew more about it. Like I just never, like I don't do such things. But I mean, when I first heard about Bitcoin, people were trading Bitcoin for like pizzas and things. Like they would, their roommate, like it was young people who were, oh yeah, I'm going to pay for my pizza with Bitcoin. And they give their roommate some Bitcoin and the roommate would pay cash or something. Like there was stuff like that going on. And it would be like 20 Bitcoins or something, whatever it is, right? And it was a substantial amount of Bitcoins. And so now, because of the market and because of the inflated view, Bitcoin, which is, it does have a purpose, which is transferring money. Like it could replace Western Union, crypto could, right? And so, crypto does have a, potential, it can be a service of some sort or another. But most markets, or all markets, are just illusionary. It's what people perceive the value of something. People now perceive the value of Bitcoin of whatever thousands of dollars that it's worth, right? And all the other cryptos. But in terms of gold, the perceived value, if there was a gold standard, it would be $800,000 an ounce or, even $100,000 an ounce. It's crazy. Like it just, so if you translate that out into what a dollar would be worth, it's a fraction. It's like $1 million worth, 100,000 or whatever it is, right? I mean, the inflation, the way it should be, if we were to return to a gold standard or any sort of commodity standard, even in terms of the petrodollar, it's so far out of whack, like the economy could never recover. And so when that's the case, there's only one way to go, and that's towards an apocalypse. And so only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting to the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.